The football revolution. One phone call in November 1992 created the most dominant dynasty in football history and changed the sport forever. When 22 clubs decided to break 104 years of tradition, they had no idea what they were unleashing. These founding clubs ditched the Football League to create something shinier, louder, and more profitable. Sky Sports had pumped £304 million into television rights, demanding a product that would fill living rooms across Britain. They got exactly what they wanted. The early Premier League was brutal. Tackles flew in like sledgehammers. Pitches resembled muddy battlefields after winter storms. Most teams played Route 1 football: win the ball, launch it forward, hope for the best. Technical skill meant controlling a bouncing ball on a surface that belonged in a farmer's field. But Manchester United changed the conversation. Sir Alex Ferguson had spent 6 years building something special at Old Trafford, desperately missing one crucial piece. When Leeds chairman Bill Fotherby rang Manchester United about Dennis Irwin, Ferguson had a wild counter-proposal. What about Cantona? The Frenchman had fallen out with manager Howard Wilkinson, and within days, the transfer coup of the century was complete. Eric Cantona arrived for £1.2 million on November 26, 1992. He didn't just score goals, he conducted the orchestra. Collar turned up, chest puffed out, Cantona made football look like art. When Cantona later karate-kicked a Crystal Palace fan on January 25, 1995, the 8-month ban only added to his legend. But it wasn't just about Manchester United. Newcastle United, under Kevin Keegan, played football that made neutrals fall in love with the game. They scored goals for fun and defended like they'd forgotten the rules. In 1996, they held a 12-point lead over United and somehow managed to lose the title. Keegan's famous "I will love it" rant captured the passion and heartbreak that the Premier League had unleashed.
I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
Arsenal began their transformation under Arsene Wenger, who arrived in 1996 looking more like a university professor than a football manager. He introduced revolutionary concepts like proper nutrition, stretching routines, and tactical flexibility. English football laughed at first, then started copying everything he did. Blackburn Rovers, bankrolled by steel magnate Jack Walker, proved that money could buy success. Alan Shearer scored 34 goals in the 1994-95 season, firing Blackburn to their only Premier League title. His move to Newcastle for £15 million the following summer shattered transfer records and set the standard for British transfer fees. Liverpool struggled to adapt to the new landscape. Their bootroom culture, which had dominated English football for 2 decades, suddenly looked outdated. Chelsea remained mid-table entertainers. Tottenham found new ways to disappoint their supporters. This era belonged to Ferguson and United. Between 1992 and 1999, they won 5 Premier League titles, reached their first Champions League final, and established themselves as English football's dominant force. The Wenger-Ferguson Wars. 1999 to 2004. The second era began when Arsenal finally found their voice. Wenger's revolution was complete by 1998, when the Gunners won the double with a team that mixed English grit with continental sophistication. But the defining moment came in 2001, when Arsenal and United engaged in a rivalry that elevated the Premier League to new heights. These weren't just football matches, they were mental, physical wars, tactical masterclasses, and personal vendettas rolled into 90 minutes of pure chaos. Ferguson and Wenger represented different philosophies, different generations, and different visions for how football should be played. Arsenal's spine was unbreakable. Tony Adams marshalled the defence with the authority of a general commanding troops. Patrick Vieira dominated midfield like a man who'd been born to win battles. Thierry Henry redefined what it meant to be a striker, combining pace, power, and precision in ways that left defenders wondering if they'd chosen the wrong profession. United responded by refreshing their squad around an unchanging core. Roy Keane remained the heartbeat, driving standards through intimidation and inspiration in equal measure. Paul Scholes evolved into the most complete midfielder in world football. Ryan Giggs continued terrorising fullbacks with his explosive pace, and David Beckham serving strikers with devastating crosses. The signing that defined this era wasn't a player, it was a statement. When United paid £30 million for Rio Ferdinand in 2002, they weren't just buying a defender, they were declaring war on Arsenal's defensive supremacy. Ferdinand's ability to play out from the back matched Arsenal's style, while adding the physicality that Wenger's teams sometimes lacked. Arsenal reached their peak in the 2003-04 season. The Invincibles went 38 games unbeaten, playing football that bordered on the supernatural. Henry scored 30 goals while creating opportunities for teammates with passes that defied logic. Dennis Bergkamp, approaching the end of his career, produced moments of genius that reminded everyone why football could be considered art. But Arsenal's dominance came with a cost. Their commitment to beautiful football sometimes meant sacrificing the ugly moments that win titles. United understood that championships were built on grinding out results when the performance wasn't perfect. Ferguson's ability to motivate players in crucial moments, to find solutions when the original plan wasn't working, gave United an edge that Arsenal couldn't match. The rivalry extended beyond the two clubs. Their supporters created atmospheres that television couldn't fully capture. Their players produced moments that would make school bullies proud. Martin Keown's celebration in Ruud van Nistelrooy's face. Roy Keane's tunnel bust-up with Vieira. Henry's goal at Highbury that left Fabien Barthez practically paralysed, wondering what had just happened.
Other clubs tried to break into this duopoly. Liverpool, under Gerard Houllier, won the UEFA Cup, FA Cup and League Cup in 2001, but couldn't sustain their league challenge. Leeds United reached the Champions League semi-finals in 2001 before financial mismanagement destroyed their ambitions. Newcastle continued to entertain while achieving nothing of substance. Two managers, two philosophies, and two sets of players locked in the greatest rivalry Premier League history has ever witnessed. The Oligarch Age, 2004 to 2008. Everything changed in June 2003. Roman Abramovich, a Russian oil tycoon worth billions, bought Chelsea Football Club and treated it like the ultimate fantasy football game. Suddenly, the Premier League had entered the oil age, where traditional hierarchies meant nothing and money rewrote every rule. Chelsea's transformation was immediate and shocking. They spent over £100 million in Abramovich's first summer, signing established stars and promising talents with equal abandon. Claude Makelele arrived from Real Madrid to redefine what a defensive midfielder could be. Frank Lampard evolved from a promising academy graduate into a goal-scoring machine from midfield. But the masterstroke was hiring Jose Mourinho in 2004. The Portuguese coach had just won the Champions League with Porto and brought an arrogance that perfectly matched Chelsea's new ambitions. He called himself the Special One and backed it up with tactical innovation that left opponents confused and supporters mesmerised. Mourinho's Chelsea played with a controlled aggression that made them almost impossible to beat. John Terry and Ricardo Carvalho formed a defensive partnership that conceded just 15 goals in their first title-winning season. Petr Cech revolutionised goalkeeping with his athletic ability and command of the penalty area. Didier Drogba became the prototype for the modern striker, combining physical power with technical skill and an ability to perform in the biggest moments. The 2004-05 season was a statement of intent. Chelsea won the Premier League with 95 points, 15 ahead of Arsenal. They lost just one league game all season. Ferguson and Wenger, who had grown accustomed to their private battle for supremacy, suddenly faced a new reality, where their carefully constructed advantages meant nothing. United struck back by adapting their approach. Ferguson signed Edwin van der Sar to improve their goalkeeping, and Wayne Rooney to add unpredictability to their attack. Cristiano Ronaldo's transformation from showboating winger to goal machine defined United's response to Chelsea's challenge. Ferguson nurtured the Portuguese teenager through his early frustrations, watching him develop from a player who prioritised tricks over substance into one of the greatest players and goal scorers in football history.
The 2006-07 season showcased this evolution perfectly. Ronaldo scored 23 goals, while Rooney added 14. United won the Premier League with 91 points, ending Chelsea's brief period of total dominance. The following season brought vindication, when United completed the double, winning the Premier League and Champions League while playing football that combined traditional English virtues with continental sophistication. Arsenal struggled to adapt to this new reality. Their commitment to developing young talent and playing attractive football seemed quaint compared to Chelsea's ruthless efficiency and United's experienced winning machine. The move to the Emirates Stadium in 2006 increased their revenue but decreased their atmosphere. Thierry Henry's departure to Barcelona in 2007 symbolised the end of Arsenal's brief period as England's best team. Liverpool provided the era's most dramatic moment. Their Champions League victory in 2005, coming back from 3 goals down against AC Milan, proved that football could still produce magic. But their inability to translate European success into domestic dominance highlighted the gap between romantic ideals and modern realities.
The Noisy Neighbours, 2008 to 2015. September 1, 2008, Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan's Abu Dhabi United Group announced they were buying Manchester City for over £200 million, treating the club like a football manager game on steroids. The Premier League had entered a new era where traditional hierarchies meant nothing. City's first statement was signing Robinho for £32.5 million on deadline day, literally stealing him from under Chelsea's noses. But this wasn't just about buying a player. This was about buying respect from competitors who'd looked down on them for decades. Sir Alex Ferguson had ruled Manchester United like a medieval king for over 20 years. United had won 11 Premier League titles in 16 seasons. City had won nothing since 1976. The power balance seemed unshakable until oil money arrived with a very different idea. Ferguson's first mistake was underestimating the revolution happening across town. When City signed Carlos Tevez from Manchester United in 2009, Ferguson dismissed them as noisy neighbours. A phrase would haunt him for the next 4 years, as those neighbours got louder, richer, and infinitely more dangerous. October 23, 2011 provided the defining moment of this era. City travelled to Old Trafford and demolished United 6-1, their biggest ever victory in the Manchester derby. Mario Balotelli scored twice, revealing a shirt that read, "Why always me?" Sergio Aguero added a third before 3 more goals completed the humiliation. It was United's worst defeat at Old Trafford since 1955. Ferguson later called it the worst day of his career. 75,000 witnesses watched 26 years of dominance crumble in 90 minutes. The neighbours weren't just noisy anymore, they were dangerous. May 13, 2012 provided the most dramatic ending in Premier League history. City needed to beat QPR to win their first title in 44 years. They led 1-0 at half-time, but fell 2-1 behind with time running out. United had already won at Sunderland. Then, madness erupted. Edin Dzeko equalised in the 92nd minute. Sergio Aguero scored the winner in the 94th minute. 44 years of hurt ended in an explosion of blue smoke and tears. City had won the title on goal difference with the last kick of the season. But Ferguson was a master of the long game. United responded by winning the 2012-13 Premier League title, Ferguson's 13th and final triumph. He'd proven that experience could still overcome oil money. Then, at the perfect moment, he walked away. Roberto Mancini had built a team that combined Italian tactical discipline with raw Manchester ambition. Vincent Kompany marshalled the defence. Yaya Toure dominated midfield like a force of nature. David Silva weaved magic between the lines, making the impossible look effortless. Ferguson's retirement in May 2013 created a power vacuum that nobody could fill. David Moyes lasted 10 months. While United searched for their identity, City built a dynasty. The transformation was complete. City had evolved from laughingstock to champion, while United descended from champions to chaos. Sheikh Mansour's investment had bought a future where the noisy neighbours stopped making noise and let their success speak for itself. The Pep versus Klopp era, 2016 to 2024. The fourth era began when Pep Guardiola walked into Manchester City's training ground and decided to rebuild football from the ground up. His arrival in 2016 coincided with Jurgen Klopp's second season at Liverpool, creating a rivalry based on competing visions of how the beautiful game should be played. Guardiola inherited a City squad that had won titles but lacked identity. His first season was spent teaching players to forget everything they knew about football. Defenders became midfielders, goalkeepers distributed like playmakers, strikers created space rather than occupied it. City finished third in Guardiola's first season, prompting critics to question whether his Barcelona methods could work in England's physical environment. The Catalan coach responded by spending over £200 million on fullbacks, proving he understood the Premier League's financial realities while refusing to compromise his tactical principles. The 2017-18 season provided the answer. City won the Premier League with 100 points, scoring 106 goals while losing just 2 games. They didn't just beat teams, they overwhelmed them with possession, pressing, and positional play that turned football into mathematics. Kevin De Bruyne became the conductor, threading passes through spaces that didn't exist until the ball arrived. Sergio Aguero adapted his instinctive style. Raheem Sterling evolved from promising winger into a goal-scoring machine operating anywhere across the front line. Liverpool's response under Klopp was revolutionary but completely different. Where Guardiola emphasized control, Klopp preached chaos. His teams pressed with intensity that left opponents gasping and supporters breathless. Klopp turned Anfield into a cauldron where visiting teams arrived already defeated. Klopp recognized Liverpool couldn't match City's financial resources, so they needed to be smarter. Virgil van Dijk's signing for £75 million in January 2018 transformed their defence from weakness into strength. The Dutch centre-back gave Liverpool the platform to compete with City's attacking brilliance. Mohamed Salah's arrival created the most devastating attacking trio in Premier League history. Salah, Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino combined pace, skill and work rate in ways that made defending against Liverpool feel like containing a forest fire. Salah's 44 goals in 2017-18 broke records and announced Liverpool's return. The 2018-19 season produced the greatest title race in Premier League history. City and Liverpool pushed each other to unprecedented heights, combining for 195 points. City won with 98 points, but Liverpool's 97 would have won any other season. Liverpool's response was perfection. The 2019-20 season belonged to Klopp's team, who won with 7 games to spare. Their combination of attacking brilliance and defensive solidity proved Klopp's methods could deliver the ultimate prize. Other clubs struggled to compete with this excellence. Arsenal's decline continued. Tottenham reached the Champions League final but couldn't translate European success into domestic dominance. Manchester United's succession of managers failed to establish identity or approach, leaving them as observers rather than participants. The era's defining characteristic was the pursuit of perfection. Both managers demanded impossible levels of performance and maintained these standards for multiple seasons while competing against each other, elevating the Premier League to unmatched heights. The Chaos Modern Era, from 2020 and still unfolding. Some might argue the Pep versus Klopp era lasted until Jurgen left Liverpool in 2024, but the fifth era actually began during a global pandemic and represents something fundamentally different, a complete breakdown of football's established order that goes far beyond any two-manager rivalry. Football returned to empty stadiums in June 2020, creating an eerie atmosphere that somehow seemed appropriate for what was coming. The Premier League entered its most unpredictable period, where established hierarchies crumbled and new forces emerged from unexpected places. The introduction of VAR in 2019 added another layer of controversy to Premier League matches. Every goal became a potential debate. Every penalty decision sparked outrage. The technology, designed to eliminate human error, instead highlighted how subjective football decisions really were.
Rule changes accelerated the chaos. 5 substitutions were introduced in 2020 due to COVID-19, initially rejected by the Premier League, then finally adopted permanently in 2022. Financial fair play regulations became suggestions rather than rules as clubs navigated economic upheaval. Newcastle United's takeover by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund in October 2021 created another oil-powered challenger to the established order. The Magpies went from relegation candidates to Champions League contenders in 18 months, proving that transformation could happen overnight. Arsenal's renaissance under Mikel Arteta represented hope, followed by heartbreak. The Spanish coach implemented possession-based football while adding cynicism that makes Jose Mourinho beam with pride. Yet every title challenge crumbles at the crucial moment, leaving Arsenal as eternal bridesmaid. Brighton became the era's most compelling story. Under Graham Potter and later Roberto De Zerbi, they played football that made established clubs look outdated. Their model of smart recruitment and progressive tactics became a blueprint for intelligent management. Tottenham remained Tottenham, providing hope, delivering despair, and somehow managing to snatch disappointment from the jaws of triumph with supernatural consistency. The era's most significant moment was the attempted European Super League in April 2021. For 48 hours, football's traditional structures faced their greatest threat as 12 clubs tried to create a closed competition. The immediate backlash killed the project, but it highlighted the tension between sporting tradition and commercial greed. Leicester City's relegation in 2023, just 7 years after their miraculous title win, symbolised how quickly fortunes could change. Leeds United's yo-yo existence between Premier League and Championship epitomised the chaos. Promotion, relegation, and back again. Saudi Arabia began luring talent away early in careers, disrupting traditional development paths. Transfer fees reached absurd levels as clubs competed for increasingly rare talents. Chelsea's scattergun approach under Todd Boehly highlighted how money alone cannot guarantee success. City's treble-winning 2022-23 season felt different without Klopp's Liverpool providing constant pressure. Erling Haaland's arrival added clinical edge, but even City's dominance feels less certain than before. Manchester United remains the era's most depressing subplot. Despite spending over £1 billion since Ferguson's retirement, they continue promising much and delivering little. A succession of managers fails to establish the consistency that once defined the club. But chaos breeds opportunity. Aston Villa transformed under Unai Emery from relegation candidates to Champions League contenders. Nottingham Forest proved the Premier League's unpredictability extends far beyond usual suspects, rising from Championship to European contention. The Premier League's global reach has never been greater, but its unpredictability has never been more pronounced. In an era where anything can happen, the only certainty is uncertainty. Make sure to subscribe as we continue to explore the greatest competition in sports history. The story continues every weekend, and nobody knows how it will end.